we've got 2 questions here then. Yes, please.
Andrew Sharp from the International Air Rail Organisation in London. Richard, you said that Heathrow, with a public transport passenger mode share at 41%, was low for an urban airport. And I wonder which urban airports you know of which have a significantly higher mode share. The one with the highest public transport mode share is Oslo with 60%, not urban at 48%, 48 kilometres from central Oslo. Copenhagen has 53, London City 50, and Zurich 42, just above Heathrow. So I do wonder if your implicit criticism is justified. Thank you.
So I think even if you accept 50% as good, which I think in the context of the challenges we've got in 2030 with congestion and air quality, it's not good, it's in the middle. Even if you accept 50%, that's a big shift from where we are now. So there needs to be a much higher proportion of people travelling to Heathrow to work and to catch a plane by public transport.
Mike from Transportation Professional. Paul, you mentioned the Southwest Quadrant strategic study. I wondered if you could go into a bit more detail, please, as to what that might involve. And you mentioned it's multimodal, so what role has Network Rail and TfL had in providing ideas for that study?
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but as I said, the study is actually being led by Department for Transport, so you really need to ask them that question. They have said that they will set the study in motion once the Airports Commission has reported, but I don't know in detail what they propose to do in that respect, what the scope of the study will be, etc.
Paul, can I ask you, you're talking about air quality targets, and you were saying that M4 pollution will be within the targets according to the Airport Commission, but overall, can the increased traffic into Heathrow mean that it can meet those targets?
Well, I can only speak in respect of our network, and the previous work for expansion of Heathrow basically said there was going to be potentially an issue in 2025, but that was on the margin, so it's not surprising that in 2030, with improvements to vehicle technology, we have got emissions down below the EU limit level.
So you're fairly confident it's doable?
In respect of our network, there are different issues that apply on the local road network and its Transport for London to comment on those.
Richard?
I think we have to accept that this is an area of intense scrutiny at the moment, and it's changing as well. So we've got a court ruling and a requirement on the UK government to come back by the end of this year with a plan for how we're going to achieve compliance. At the moment, the worst part of London for air quality is central London around the Marylebone Road. That gets addressed through the ultra-low emission zone by 2020. Based on current levels, the one that becomes the worst then is probably the Bath Road outside Heathrow, which actually under these plans is half gone. So there needs to be a lot more work to understand what the baseline's going to be without Heathrow expansion, but with the ULEZ and with the response to the court ruling, but also what the incremental effect of a larger Heathrow is, and that work hasn't been done yet. So I think it's far too premature to say that we can achieve compliance by 2030 when the goalposts are changing all the time.
And my understanding was the figures that you produced at the beginning were all background demand. They weren't with the additional demand that the third one may create.
I think the point that Chris made about airports contributing a relatively small proportion of demand in the overall context is absolutely right. But the context to all of this is London's growing at an incredible rate. So the theme that is common between all the three of us is congestion and lack of capacity. So it's essential that the plans for Heathrow address that problem and recognise what that will be like in 2030.
Simon, can I get you to come in?
The Airports Commission report was pretty clear about Heathrow's ability to meet the air quality limits. That's a clear conclusion of the study, and it also said that it believed that overall traffic levels, road traffic levels, wouldn't increase materially at the airport, and we would support that. The Commission embraced broadly the strategy that we submitted to the Airports Commission. It's forecast significant shifts in public transport, but there is still further mitigation work that we proposed that was not included in the Commission's final report. So more we plan to do with encouraging our colleagues to travel more sustainably to Heathrow, but also building a richer and deeper public transport catchment that covers rail, bus and coach, that will see 3/4 of the UK able to access Heathrow within 3 hours.
Well, I suppose the situation will be changing all the time, won't it? Because the Airports Commission talked about Marylebone Road as being the most, the most affected. But you've just said, Richard, actually that's not going to be the case by 2025. That's going to have changed. Yes, yeah. So it's a moving picture.
I think the one thing I would add there is that there's a responsibility for the 4 organisations that are sitting in front of the audience today to work together and develop a cohesive and integrated plan for transport, to build an integrated master plan for this area. The GLA has identified Heathrow as an opportunity area, and we need to seize that opportunity and develop an ambitious plan that understands the background growth at Heathrow, but also puts that in the context of airport expansion, and build a plan that works for the long term, and then build it into the Highways England 5-year plan, the Network Rail Control Period, and indeed TfL's own plans for investment, so that the infrastructure is coming in at the right times to meet background growth, but also to support a expanded, sustainable Heathrow.
Jenny Bates, Friends of the Earth, London and air pollution campaigner again. Just on that air pollution point, I think it needs to be made clear that the Airports Commission has made has got a misunderstanding on what they said about the fact that you could add to air pollution as long as there was somewhere else that was worse. That is completely not sort of compatible with EU law as far as we understand it. So, everywhere within a zone has to be improved. We have to do that in the shortest possible time, which means that all the things that are being mentioned as mitigation, improving public transport, mode share, have to be done anyway, but we just can't add any more to it. And that's because we're in a sort of special measures situation, because we were supposed to meet those NO2 limits by 2010 or 2015, in other words, by now already. So we're in a sort of special measures where, as if we had a bank card that we've overspent on and it's been taken away. So we can't add to anything when we're in that situation. If we were within limits, it would have to be air quality neutral. In other words, you could possibly add pollution if you were fully mitigating the effects. But in an area where we're not meeting limits, then you have to do everything we can to bring it down, but not add to it. Thank you.
Do you want to take that, Simon?
I think I would say you would have heard my chief exec speak this morning about ambition, and I'd just like to reiterate that point about ambition, and reiterate the point about us taking responsibility and playing our part, which is why today we've launched a new plan for surface access, five-point plan for how we can do more now to improve access to the airport, which has followed on from the air quality blueprint, which we published recently. Because I think Richard is right, you can't look at air quality and surface access in integration, and nor should we. But we're taking measures to do our bit in the short term now to show that we take those issues incredibly seriously, but also that we have ambition. We have ambition to shift our passengers and our employees, colleagues onto public transport as soon as possible.
Richard, Chris, Paul and Simon, thank you very much. Thank you.